Just thank you, Jack. Just one quick piece of admin, if you don't mind. With such a busy room, can you all please make sure your microphones are on mute? Thank you very much. You can keep your videos on, that's fine. What we'll do is we will cover off the content that we've got. So the kind of flow of today, we'll cover off the content we've got. Jack is recording this for anyone who needs to, leave early, or, if you want to have a look at it later on and catch up, we'll get that recording made available to you. Because it's such a busy room, I think what we'll do in terms of questions during the session, we'd ask you to wait for the content to come. So please don't jump in slide one with a question, because chances are, we've done this so many times, we try and cover off absolutely everything possible you could ask. So try and please keep your questions towards the end of the session. Now, if I cover a subject and you've got a question about that subject I don't cover, pop the question in the chat and we'll pick that question up at the end. So at the end of the session, Jack and I will go through the questions in the chat, and then if there's anything we've missed, we can open up the mics and we can do a raise hand session. And if anyone wants to have a detailed Q&A, we can certainly do that for you as well. So let me just introduce myself first of all. I'm Kevin Walls, Chief Operating Officer at Scottish Edge. My role at Scottish Edge is running the competition process itself, and part of that process is today. It's about giving all you good people, as much information as you possibly can to submit a great application to Scottish Edge, and a great pitch video, and to help you understand completely what Scottish Edge is about, what you're coming into, and what that journey might look like. I'm supported today by my colleague Jack Proctor. Jack is our marketing manager. Jack's the guru on digital imagery. If you ever follow our social media, go into LinkedIn, you'll see some amazing stuff in there. This is all Jack's creation as well. So Jack's going to support me today. He'll be in the background just managing the chat, and keep me right if I've missed any questions. So without any further ado, I'm going to just bring up the slide deck and then we can get started on the content. So, Jack, I'm just going to share my screen. Bear with me a second. And put this into presenter mode. Okay, Jack, give me the thumbs up if you can see that okay. Yeah, good to go. Okay, right, good morning everyone, let's get cracking. So, welcome to the round 23 of Scottish Edge Application Workshop. We're going to cover off a lot of information today. We're going to try and keep it clear and concise, and we've learned the content of this information based on effectively 10 years of Scottish Edge and getting feedback from you good people who join these sessions. So as I said, my name's Kevin, Chief Operating Officer. My email address is at the end of the slide deck if you want to contact me, but if you want to take a note of it now, it's there, kevin.walls@scottishedge.com. So if you have a question after this session, if there's anything you're not clear about, you want to drop me a wee note, please feel free, drop me a note. I'll do my best to get back to you as quickly as possible if you've got any questions at all on this session or the content. So what we're going to cover, quite a lot. We're going to give you a bit of a background on Scottish Edge, what it is, who we are and why we exist. I'm going to talk you through our competition process and our competition categories, because we do different categories for different stages of business. I will talk you through the key things like the key dates. So when does everything happen in Scottish Edge and what should I be aware of if I'm coming into this process? I'll talk you through the actual application process itself. So what does the journey look like? What do I have to do? How do I complete it? When does it get done by? We'll talk you through all of that. We'll talk about 3 minutes to make a difference, so structuring your pitch video. So if you've never done a pitch video before, we'll give you lots and lots of hints and tips on how to do that. We'll talk about the assessment process itself. So what happens after you hit submit with your application form? Where does it go? How does it get looked at? How does it get scored? We'll give you all that information also. We'll look at some top tips. So how to submit a great application form and how to deliver a great video presentation. So we'll give you lots of information to help you submit the best application you can. And obviously we'll have questions at the end. Now, just about every single piece of information I'm going to give you is available through our website. Whether it's on the help pages, whether it's on the competition pages, or whether it's in the competition brochure, almost every piece of information I'm giving you today is available to download off our website. So I would recommend you take a note, go and have a look at the competition brochure, download the electronic PDF, and you'll find lots and lots of reference information in there as well, because I will give you a lot of information today. You might not take it all down or take it all in, but it is there on our website if you want to refer back to it. So, what is Scottish Edge? If you've never heard of Scottish Edge, what is it and why do we exist? So Scottish Edge was actually a project that was tried and tested by Scottish Enterprise back in 2012. And at that time in the Scottish business landscape, it was identified that there was a funding gap for early stage ideas, early stage, innovative, high growth potential businesses. And there was a theory put together to say, what if we gave these early stage businesses £50,000 of a grant? Would it move the dial on that business idea to make them more, attractable to like banks and investors? Because at that time, there was a real gap in the business landscape. It was clearly recognised that early stage, high growth, high risk potentially businesses were too early for investors and too high risk for banks. So there was a theory put together of what if we give them £50,000 grant, would it move the dial? They did it for 2 years and it worked super well. It was oversubscribed and they ran 4 rounds. It was then decided to scale this up and spin it out into Scottish Edge, which became Scottish Edge CIC. So we're a community interest company, we are a social enterprise. So that was spun out in 2014, and Evelyn McDonald and Stephen Hamill got together to set up the competition process in earnest, and then change the model slightly to create a loan fund. So to create sustainability within our model, Scottish Edge CIC was set up with a mixture of loans and grants. And I'll talk you through each part of the competition process and which part is grant and which part is grant and loan. But we have a different mix of model, and we have loans and grants that we give out to winners. But we're looking to identify high growth potential entrepreneurial talent. That's fundamentally why we're here. And what we hope to do by investing in new good people is that we want to create sustainable, well-paid jobs for Scotland and generate revenue for the economy. Okay, that's the ultimate foundations of why Scottish Edge exists. To invest in startups based in Scotland that can create jobs and generate revenue. So why would you look at Scottish Edge? Well, some of the kind of key headlines: we are open to all sectors. We are sector agnostic. We've invested in everything from chocolate to feminine hygiene products to med tech to AI, robotics. We've invested in just about everything over the last 10 years. And if you want to know some of our past winners, you can look at them on our website and look at our alumni as well. During the process of Scottish Edge, you'll get feedback. You'll get feedback on your application at every stage of the process from the assessors who look at your application. And that is something we have taken feedback on over the years that adds real value. Because I'll make no bones about it, Scottish Edge is a competition. It's a competitive competition, and it's quite challenging to win at times. And I'll give you some stats around that, but people do win at Scottish Edge. But for some people, it takes them maybe 2, 3, or even 4 applications to win. But every single time they learn from the process of so many people looking at their application, giving them feedback to strengthen it and to come back in a future round and to do better and to add more colour, add more detail to their application so that they can win Scottish Edge. If you win Scottish Edge, you get access to a lot of support. You actually get a lot of support even if you don't win, because we try and help everybody be the best they can be with their application. But if you do succeed in securing Scottish Edge, you get access to our relationship managers, and they will effectively plug you into your wider network. So whether that's Scottish Enterprise, Business Gateway, the Innovation Hubs, Royal Bank Business Accelerators, whatever it is you need to go, our relationship managers are very good, and have got a very good network at making sure you get plugged into where you need to go to accelerate your business. So you get access to that as well. We're also very flexible funders. Now, what that means is, if you come in for one of the categories that's got a loan element attached to it, we are not a bank first and foremost. We have a loan element that has to exist to make Scottish Edge sustainable for the future, but we're not a bank. So we're very flexible when it comes to that funding. And if for some reason your cash flow is a challenge and you need some support with your loan repayments, we will absolutely support every single one of our clients. So we're very flexible around that. And these are all taken on a case-by-case basis. So depending on your own company's individual cash flow situation, we can have discussions around the loan affordability element of any Scottish Edge award. I'll cover off in a little bit more detail on that later. Fundamentally, we have been backed by 4 major backers from the start, from 2014. Royal Bank of Scotland were very kind to give us a loan fund at the start, and we've now used that as a revolving loan fund that grows and grows, and that money gets recycled back out to more and more entrepreneurs as we grow. The Hunter Foundation have been with us from the start, and the Hunter Foundation have been supporting us with operational costs, so covering the costs of the staffing. And we are only a team of 7. So for all people who've got a vision of Scottish Edge being this big, massive public entity, we're actually a private run business with a team of 7. And the Hunter Foundation have been very kind over the years to support us with the operational costs of salaries, office space, equipment, that type of thing. Scottish Government have been behind us from the start as well, and Scottish Government provide us with the grant funding element of the awards that we give away. And Scottish Enterprise have been with us from the start, and Scottish Enterprise have provided us grant funding in the past also. They also provide Scottish Edge with secondees, and we've got lots of great connections at Scottish Enterprise to help potentially fast track and get our winners connected to the right people who are willing to support and give back to Scottish Edge winners directly as well. So we get a lot of support, which we're very, very grateful for. So what have we achieved in the last 10 years? We've seen over 5,000 applications. We have an alumni of over 602 winners, and that just continues to grow. We've awarded over 25 million in funding, and this round we'll award roughly 1.5 million in round 23 in awards. And we've got winners covering all corners of Scotland. We are Scottish Edge. We're here to support businesses in Scotland, and that's everything from the Western Isles to Orkney, Shetland, to the Borders, to Dumfries and Galloway, wherever it is. We'll look at ideas from across Scotland. So let's look at who can apply. So if you're applying to the Scottish Edge category, so that's the kind of most popular category, in as much as Scottish Edge is the main category if you're applying for up to £100,000 of funding. Okay, so must be a registered business entity of some kind. So a limited company, a social enterprise, a KIC, or a charity can apply to the Scottish Edge category. If you're a social enterprise and you want to apply for the Social Enterprise Edge Award, that's a maximum award of £75,000. That must be an asset-locked social enterprise. So it's a not-for-profit, asset-locked, and that should be in your constitution of how your business is set up at the start. Anyone's got any questions on that, you can come to me directly and we can clarify that if you're not quite sure which category to apply for. Now, the Scottish Edge category, just to check in at this point, it's probably the right time to bring this up. If you secure £100,000, that's a mix of loan and grant, and it's 70% loan and 30% grant. So if you secure £100,000, that will be £70,000 loan and £30,000 grant. Okay. If you come into the Social Enterprise Edge category and you secure the top award of £75,000, that is a mix of 30% loan and 70% grant. So the ratio is flipped, and it's done in a very specific way, and it's supported by our partners on this. We recognise that social enterprises, we want to reduce the debt burden on social enterprises. So we've flipped the loan and grant ratio. So Social Enterprise Edge is 30% loan and 70% grant. Okay, just to make that distinction very clear. In the other categories, Young Edge and Wildcard, you can apply for up to £10,000, and there will be selected top prizes in each category for up to £15,000. And the judges will select which are the top 2 winners in each category, and they'll award 1 or 2 businesses an extra £5,000. So they'll give them 15k in total. But really the maximum you can apply for is £10,000. These are grants only. These are not loans, these are grants only in the Young Edge and the Wildcard categories. Now, if you want to apply to the Young Edge category, you have to be 30 years old or younger at the time of applying. Okay, so the question this morning where someone is going to be 31 in April, that's absolutely fine because the closing date is the 6th of March. You submit your application and you're 30 years old, you're eligible to apply for Young Edge. Again, if anyone's got any questions, you can pop it in the chat or we can have a direct conversation just to check eligibility. The Wildcard is for any business at all, any stage, mostly pre-trading we're looking for. We're looking for early stage ideas who can prove that if they got a £10,000 grant, they could move their business idea forward significantly and they could be ready to come in at a future round of Scottish Edge. Because the Young and the Wild was created for a very specific reason. It's to give young businesses and early stage ideas an initial grant to go away, build some foundations and make them stronger for the Scottish Edge category in future. So we hope that if you win a Scottish Edge Young Edge or Wildcard Award, you'll use that to build traction, you build some growth in your business, and then come back and apply for up to £100,000 in the Scottish Edge category in future. Okay, that's why it's set up that way. Now, as you can see from the bold type here, there is 4 categories here. You can only pick one. So when you go into the application process, which we'll talk you through soon, you have to choose one category to apply to. So make sure you decide which you want to apply to, which is right for you, and select that one category. So in the Young and a Wild card for what kind of business you can apply with, must be a registered entity of some kind, again, so you can have a limited company, a social enterprise can apply for Young and Wild, a KIC or a charity, but even a sole trader or a partnership can apply as well. So there's a slight distinction here because it's a grant only. So you could be a wildcard, you could be a sole trader, you don't have a limited company yet, that's okay, you could apply. But one thing to bear in mind with the Young and the Wild, if you do secure an award, you will have to have a business bank account set up to receive the payment for that award. Payments cannot be made to personal bank accounts, okay? So you can apply as a sole trader, but at some point you will need a business bank account to receive any awards that you are gifted, okay? Some general criteria for across all categories. Must be a pre-trading business or have been trading for less than 5 years. So if you come into Scottish Edge and you have been trading for less than 5 years, you are eligible. And when we say trading, we mean serving customers. We don't mean when you were first registered in Companies House. Because we do see a lot of applications where, they'll be registered in Companies House and, the business can be dormant for 3, 4, 5 years, and then they start trading. So we take trading from when you start dealing with customers, from when you start generating revenue. All applicants must be looking to build a business that is headquartered in Scotland, and the entrepreneurial lead must be resident in Scotland. Okay, that's a very clear distinction. We want to work with the decision maker in the business. So whoever's the greatest shareholder, whoever's the entrepreneurial lead, whether that be the CEO or whoever that person is, we want to work directly with that person. So they have to be based in Scotland. And the business has to be headquartered here because we're trying to create jobs for Scotland. So the business must be headquartered here. If it's not headquartered here now, you have to have a plan to headquarter it here in future, and you have to demonstrate that in your application form. If you're trading, your current sales turnover of less than £1 million a year would be eligible. Anything over £1 million a year turnover would not be eligible. And you would still be eligible if you've raised less than £500,000 of investment. Okay, so if you've raised some investment at the moment, if you've raised 250, that's fine, you can apply to Scottish Edge. If you've raised 500, you can apply to Scottish Edge. If you've raised 750, you would be eligible to apply to Scottish Edge. Okay. 50% of the business ownership is attributed to directors actively working in the business on a day-to-day basis. That comes back to that point I made before. We want to be working with the majority shareholder, the director, the CEO, who's making the decisions in the business, and we can help that business, help that director, help that CEO move the business forward. Every applicant must have ambitions to generate £200,000 turnover over the next 3 years. Okay, so we're looking for businesses with high growth potential. So even if you're pre-trading, we're asking you to try and predict over the next 3 years, you're going to try and get to an extra 200,000. Now that might be easier for trading businesses to kind of make assumptions around that, and it can be quite challenging for early stage businesses. So we're not expecting, mathematical equations working this out. We're looking for good, strong assumptions based on evidence as to how you might get to that £200,000 turnover. Now, there's a caveat, as you can see on screen here. If you're a med tech or a drug discovery or some type of technology that you're predicting you will need a lot of investment and you'll be 5 years, for example, from revenue, that's okay. Put that in your application form. The judges will pick that up and they'll realise that there are some sectors that will take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years before they can get to revenue. So that's okay. Don't knock yourself out of the competition because of that. We allow that in the competition because we know that med tech, drug discovery, certain technologies that take a long time to get to revenue. Okay, but in general, must have ambitions to add £200,000 of additional turnover over the next 3 years. So what does the journey look like? So after today, you'll do the workshop, you'll have a look at what we do, you might have a look at the application form, decide if you're going to go for it. So you go onto the website, and if you haven't done already, you'll set up an account on our CRM portal. So you put in your details, you create an account, and that'll give you access to the application form. Forgive me, there's work going on outside, there's scaffolding getting taken down, so if anyone can hear that, hopefully you can. You go into the portal and you'll start to complete the application form. I've got a couple of screenshots on what that looks like in a second. And you'll complete your application form over the next few weeks. And then you'll also complete a 3-minute pitch video, which we'll talk about in a second, and you'll submit that and attach it to your application form. When we get to the closing date, which we'll cover the dates in a second, all first stage assessments will be reviewed. Now, last round, we had 163 applications. This round, we could have as many as 200 applications. All applications will be reviewed and will be assessed, scored, and feedback will be provided from external assessors. Okay, so we'll have a mix of assessors who will be looking at your application forms and providing feedback, whether you're successful or not. So whether you proceed to the next stage or not, every single application will get feedback on what the judges have seen. So that feedback will be constructive. So it might point out some great things, but it'll point out some things to maybe improve on for a future round as well. Depending on the category you apply to, when you come into the first stage assessment process, if you apply to Scottish Edge, then you go through that top flow. So Scottish Edge, let's say you're applying for £100,000. First stage assessment, judges want it to go through. You will then go through a semi-final stage. And at the semi-final stage, you'll be asked to come into a closed environment Zoom room at a specific date, which I'll cover off in a second. You'll be asked to pitch for 3 minutes in a Zoom room in front of 4 judges. And 4 judges will ask you questions for up to 12 minutes. You will then leave the room, and the judges will see 10 businesses at that semi-final. And there are 5 semi-finals. So we're looking to take 50 businesses in the Scottish Edge category through to semi-final stage. And each semi-final day, the judges will see 10 businesses and they will choose their finalists from those 5 days. We will then take 24 of those 50 semi-finalists through to 2 live final pitching days. And these live final pitching dates, I'll give you the dates for in a second, will be, the first one will be Edinburgh Napier University Auditorium. That'll be live on stage in front of an audience of, could be up to 200 people, where you will pitch in front of 4 live judges and they will ask you questions for 10 minutes. And there'll be 12 finalists on each day. On day 2 of the finals, that'll be held at RBS Gogarburn in Edinburgh. Again, live on stage in an auditorium with up to 200 people in the audience. And after those 2 days, the judges will decide who should get awards. And we will notify all winners immediately if you've received an award. And we'll tell you which category you've received that award in also. So Scottish Edge will find out if you've won a special category award, which I'll cover off in a second. So going back to the first stage assessment process, if you are a Young Edge applicant, a Wildcard or a Social Enterprise Edge applicant, if you're successful at first stage, you'll be notified that you'll be going through to a final stage. So there's no semi-final for Young, Wild or Social. You'll go through to a final stage. So for the Social Enterprise Edge, if you go to the final, that is an in-person event, normally held in Edinburgh, similar to the final, where you will come to a room, a closed room, not in a public, but a closed room, but a physical space, and you will pitch in front of 4 judges. Those judges will ask you questions for about 12 minutes. And depending on how many applications we get for the Social Enterprise Edge category, there could be as many as 6 to 12 businesses on that final day. But we don't know until we get to see how many applicants actually come in. At that Social Enterprise Edge final, all the finalists will pitch, and at the end of the day, the judges will decide who should get an award. And you will be notified immediately after that if you've been successful or unsuccessful. And again, you will get feedback whether you're successful or unsuccessful. If you are applying to the Young Edge or the Wildcard Edge, again, if you're successful at first stage, you'll be notified of an online event, which you'll come to at a specific date and time. You will come online. you'll pitch for 3 minutes, and a panel of judges will ask you questions for 10 minutes. And there will be 2 Young Edge final days, and there'll be 1 wildcard final day. And that's based on the number of applicants that we receive generally on each round. So there'll be 20 Young Edge finalists approximately, and there'll be 12 wildcard finalists approximately. And the judges will then decide at each of these finals who should receive an award. And again, every finalist will be notified immediately after the finals if they've been successful or not, and they will be provided with feedback on their success, or maybe they haven't been successful at that time. So that's a kind of an overview of the flow chart. Again, this is on our website, this is in our competition brochure, so you can look back over that. But again, any specific questions on the flow, you can pop it in the chat, or we can bring it up at the end. So one of the questions we get asked is, so we know Scottish Edge is competitive, what is the chance of winning? Is it worth my while coming in here? Well, I would say yes, because even if you don't win, you will learn a hell of a lot about your business. I've spoken to so many applicants who didn't realise how much they had to dig to complete the application form, and it really helped them understand the business in a lot of granular detail that they'd never thought about before. So it strengthens the business case. And we actually get investors tell us that they can tell, when people get to investors, they can tell who's been through Scottish Edge, because the detail in their business plan is so much better than someone who hasn't been, because they've been through this process. You know, they know the level of scrutiny they're going to go through, they've pitched, they've had Q&A, they've had feedback, and they can see the difference. So just coming into the process, you'll get value from it. But what about the chances of winning? So based on 163 applications we received last round, we had 86 apply for the Scottish Edge category, and we had 14 winners. So that was a 16% chance of securing a top award. Okay. For the Young Edge and the Wildcard, we had a total of 54 apply for those categories, and we had 22 winners in total. So that's a 40% chance of winning a £10,000 grant. So slightly better odds there. And from the Social Enterprise Edge, we had a very high application rate last time of 23. We normally only have about 12, but there was only enough funding for 1 winner. So that looks like a low percentage rate, but please don't be deterred by that. 23 applying last round was a very high anomaly. We normally only have about 12 apply for Scottish, for the Social Enterprise Edge category. Okay, what are the key dates? Okay, so as you'll probably know, we are now open for applications. We opened on the 7th of February. I'm hoping that if you've not looked at the application process, you can get on today, get registered, and have a look around and familiarise yourself with what's involved here. Because the competition application process closes on the 6th of March, 2 PM sharp. Okay, we will close down the website. You will not be able to amend, add anything, change anything in your application process. You have to hit submit before 2 PM on the 6th of March. My advice always is, when you're happy with your application, hit submit. Whether it's today, tomorrow, or the 4th of March, hit submit. Don't wait to the last minute, because inevitably something will come up. Something will come up at work, something will come up at home, and if you plan to complete it on the morning of the 6th of March, chances are something might stop you from applying, and there is no leeway beyond 2 PM on the 6th. We've got so many applications, we have to start the process effectively at 3 PM on the 6th of first stage assessments. So my advice is always, if you complete your application, you're happy with your video, you're ready to hit submit. Don't tinker with it. Because what I've seen in the past is people complete their application and then hold off to the deadline date and time, and then they'll go in and tweak it, and they'll change it, and I need to change that, I need to change that. And you actually lose the narrative that you tried to create the first time, and it becomes really blocky, and it doesn't really make sense for the judges. So you don't have to sit and complete everything at the one time. You can log in, complete a section, go away and come back, but read it through, and if you're happy with the narrative, just hit submit. If you've got everything in there you're going to add, hit submit. Because if you leave it to the last minute, it will just create potentially challenges for you in getting it in on time. After the first stage assessment process, everyone will be notified if they're going through or they're not progressing at Scottish Edge at this point on the 20th of March. All first stage assessments will be notified via email on the 20th of March. whether you're going through to the next stage or whether you're not successful in Scottish Edge in this round, and everyone gets feedback on that application. If you've applied for Scottish Edge and you get a yes at that point, then you will be coming and invited to one of these semi-final dates. So the dates are there on screen. We have to plot these well in advance, so these are generally not negotiable. But if you are selected for a semi-final date and there is something fundamentally you've got on that day that you cannot shift, like a hospital appointment or something major with the family, please get in touch, we'll do our best. But if you've just got a general meeting that day, please change it, because it will be almost impossible to give you a different slot. These 50 semi-finalists will be plotted in, and it will be almost impossible to move the slot for you. But if anyone is selected and you really can't make the slot for some important reason, get in touch. We'll do our best to support. So on the 20th of March, if you applied for Young Edge, you'll be notified of one of the 2 final dates that will ask you to attend. And the Young Edge final dates are 23rd and 24th of April. That's the online session where you come in, pitch for 3 minutes, questions for 10 minutes, and you'll find out immediately after that if you've been successful. Going back to the semi-finals for the Scottish Edge, after those 5 dates, you will know on the 19th of April if you've been successful to get through to the final stage as well. So after each of these kind of stages, we let everyone know immediately what happens next. If you're successful at first stage and you go to the wildcard final on the 26th of April, then again, you'll be invited to that at a time in the day, and you'll be asked to come online, pitch for 3 minutes, questions for 10 minutes, and the judges will decide who gets an award, and you'll find out the next day if you've been successful. And again, on the 20th of March, if you've been selected to go to the Social Enterprise Edge final, you'll be invited to come to an in-person event on the 30th of April. You'll pitch in front of a live audience of 4 judges, and they will ask you questions for 10 minutes. Okay. If you have been successful at the semi-final stage, then the dates for the finals are shown on the screen. 9th and 10th of May, these are live in person. 9th of May is going to be Edinburgh Napier, and the 10th of May is going to be RBS Goulburn. Okay. So again, all these dates are on our website. So these are just initial dates you can take a note of if you're successful during this process. So how do you go about starting? If you haven't looked at it, very simply go to your website, scottishedge.com, and it's right on the homepage. You can apply here. Once you click apply here, you'll be asked to register for our portal if you haven't done so already. So we'll ask for some basic personal details and business details to get you set up on the portal. And then that will give you access through to our competition process. So as you can see on screen here, on the left-hand side, there's a couple of buttons at the top here. There's one, how to complete the application. So there's a guide there for that. You can review and print your application if you want to keep a copy of it at the end. But the important thing to look at here is the application questions. So there's 8 sections here. Now, as I said before, you can complete some of this and then save it and come back. You don't have to sit and complete this whole application in one sitting. You can do it and come back, make sure you save it, log back in, complete the next section. As you can see from this screenshot, the funding section of the application in this example has been complete because it's green, and you have to tick a box at the end of each section to say you've completed it. So you can visually see which sections have I completed, which ones have I not started in white, and which ones have I started and not completed. In this case, the orange faded section, utilisation of funding, has been started but not completed. So you get a visual aid there showing you if you completed all 8 sections before you hit submit. We'll ask you to submit a video link, and your video, which I'll talk you through some of the content in a second, we ask you to complete a YouTube or similar type format. If you're doing a YouTube, there's a guide on how to make it unlisted, so it's not public viewing. You send a link and only Scottish Edge assessors can view it. There's a guide on that again in our brochure and on our website on how to do that. But it's very easy to Google how do you make a YouTube video unlisted. It's a 2-stage process, very easy to do. So you can record it on your phone, upload it to YouTube, make it unlisted, and apply the link into the application form. Now, you do have the option to make a video link password, but unless you get something truly confidential in there that you can't risk getting out into the world, which would never happen to Scottish Edge anyway, please don't put a password. It can make the job of the assessor that little bit more difficult. So please don't. But if you have to, for some reason, make sure your password is a simple password and it's something that judges can easily access. Okay. Once you've done all these screen sections in green, you've got your video link and everything's ready, you'll have to verify all your answers and click submit. So don't forget to review, read through and download, and you can print off your application if you need a copy of it for future reference. So when you go into the website and you start to complete some of the questions, this is a journey you'll go through. So as I said, you'll be asked to select a category: Scottish Edge, Social Enterprise Edge, Young Edge, or Wildcard. You'll choose one of those categories. You'll also put in the amount you've applied for. So Scottish Edge up to £100,000, Social Enterprise Edge up to £75,000, and Young and Wild up to £10,000 each. But there will be a couple of £15,000 top awards that will be chosen by the judges. When you go into the value proposition section, you'll be asked for a brief description of the business and the value proposition. You'll be asked questions like, what is the product or service offering, competitive landscape, point of difference, any IP, what TRL level you're at, key risks and highlights. All these sections have got very clear questions. These questions are deliberately designed to help you complete a strong application. So please read the questions, please answer the questions, and please build your narrative around the questions. Because if you answer them clearly, that's the information the judges are looking for. We'll try to make this really clear and concise. Try not to waffle in your answers. Keep it clear, keep it concise, so the judges can digest this information and clearly see what is the value proposition. You know, what is your key product or services? What is your competitive landscape? Who are the people in the team? What key strengths do you have? More importantly, what gaps have you identified? What impact are you hoping to achieve? And when it comes to impact, if you're an early stage company, the judges know that at this early stage of your business, they want to hear about the impact that you strive to achieve in future. So we're not expecting, to change the world and the social environmental impact from day one. That's not possible. But what the judges are looking for are entrepreneurs who are building social and environmental impact into the fabric of their business idea from the start. Okay, so you'll be scored on this area, but we do recognise early stage companies will have to predict how they want to impact social and environmental impact in the future. Okay, so talk about any circular economy focus you might have now or in the future, how you'll measure that impact, and we'll ask you a little bit about the UN's SDGs as well. The most important section for me, they're all very important, but customer focus is one of the most important sections in the application process. And it's one of these sections that businesses can fall down on quite quickly. Be very clear as to who your customers are, especially if you're in a multi-sided marketplace. So if you're building a marketplace that needs, it needs businesses and also needs consumers, be very clear on breaking down your customer segments. Be very clear that there is a demand for your product or service and you've validated that. So, for example, citing a paper that was written 5 years ago is not validation that there's a customer segment for your service. But going out and speak to 100 people and ask them open questions and gathering insight is validation that this problem exists and there's potentially enough people in that customer segment who have this problem. Okay, so that's just one example. Be very clear on the market you've engaged, who your target market is, how you've engaged them, what you've learned, and how much customer validation you've actually done. That is one of the key areas of the application form where good ideas can fall over because the business hasn't articulated that clear validation. Business growth potential will ask you to predict 200,000 over the next 3 years, potentially talk about how many employees you hope to bring into the business as well. And crucially, what is your revenue model? How do you make money? It's one of the fundamentals of a business plan, has to be clear. Use of funds will ask you how you're going to intend to spend your 100,000 or your 10,000 or your 75,000, and we'll ask you for a breakdown of costs. We're not looking for, every single detailed item to the penny. We're not looking for £10 on a hammer and £100 on a step ladder, whatever your business may be. We're looking for an overview, a clear overview of you want to allocate £10,000 towards office equipment, including laptops, or 35,000 to employ a marketing manager, whatever that may be. But make it clear that judges know what you intend to allocate the funding towards. There is a section on the application for product visuals if you want to. It's not compulsory because hopefully your pitch video will show that anyway. Okay, so you can add 1 or 2 visuals if you want, and no more than 1 or 2, because judges will have time to look at it briefly. They won't have time to digest PDFs or, you know, papers on data. They won't have time to look at that, so don't submit it. If it's a visual product, if it's a quick slide for something, you can add that in there. But nothing with text, nothing with wording, and certainly nothing with a PDF to read, because it won't get looked at. You'll put in your video link, you'll do your declaration, and you'll submit your application form. And that's you. That's you in the system. There's nothing else you can do after that point. So here's some a guide on 3-minute pitch video if you haven't done one before. When you put together your pitch video for the first time, if you've never done it, it's really important to think about what story you want to tell. And more importantly, what headlines in that story do you want to get across? And these headlines that are on screen are a tried and tested method that we've seen over the years, and I've certainly seen in my 10 years of working with startups. If you use these headings or something similar, it gives the judges the overview of your business in 8 to 10 different headings. Okay, so if you Google how to do a pitch structure, you'll get lots of different variations of it. But generally, what you'll get the same is you'll get an introduction and you'll get an ask at the top and the tail. Okay, introduction, you want to get the judge's attention right from the very start. So your introduction can be, you know, the telling of a personal story why you're doing this. It can be a shock statistic, a fun fact, it can be something interesting, something just to get the audience's attention for this first 3 minutes. You'll then go to talk about the problem that you're solving and how you've identified it. Then you'll talk about your solution and why it's been validated. You might mention your market size, which is really important, and your revenue model. You might want to talk about your competition, why you're different, what's your USP. You might want to talk about some of your risks. You definitely need to talk about your team. Now, if you're a solo entrepreneur, you could reference your team as yourself as founder, but you're also being supported by Royal Bank of Scotland Business Accelerator. That's part of your wider business team, so it's important to talk about that. If you've got any mentors, if you've got any advisors, they're part of your wider business team, so mention them in your application, and you can mention them in your pitch video. You might want to talk about the traction. So what have you achieved so far to date before Scottish Edge? Talk about that. And more importantly, have an ask. Today you're applying for X amount of funds because you want to do X with it. Be very clear about that. Now, this is only a suggestion of the headings, but it's a tried and tested method that if you can talk about these headings, the judges in 3 minutes will get a good idea as to what this business is all about. Because they'll generally, judges will watch the 3-minute video, they'll get the overview, and then they'll dive into the application form. They want to know more in detail. So make your 3-minute pitch video interesting, clear, concise. The judges know what they're looking at, and then they'll go into the application form itself, and they'll look at it in a bit more detail. So what are judges assessing you on? They're assessing you on these 6 key criteria, which more than coincidence are the 6 key criteria in the application form itself. So they'll score you on these areas. So the judge will read your value proposition and they'll score it out of 5 based on the information you have provided. So that's why it has to be really clear and really concise. The judges will score your value proposition out of 5. They'll do the same for team, impact, customer focus, business growth, and use of funds. So there's a maximum score available of 30 points for your application. Okay. Now, in my time, no one has ever scored 30 points. It's very difficult to do that. Okay. And there's no kind of minimum number to go through to the next stage. It depends on the judges. But all sections are scored out of 5. Okay. We take assessors from all over the business ecosystem in Scotland. We try and make sure we've got a really good male-female split. In fact, this round, we've got an exact 50-50 male-female split of judges on our assessment panels. Every assessor is given the application form and a video, and they will review that ahead of your assessment day. We try and group together sector-specific applications. So we try and group together technologies, social enterprises, food and drink. We try and put them together in the same assessment days. Assessors will review the application and the form, and they'll come together to have a discussion and decide which ones go through to the next stage or which ones win. As I said, scored out of 5, and all assessors have to sign a confidentiality agreement before they get sight of any application forms. So your IP is protected. We have never had a breach of IP in 10 years of Scottish Edge. And we make it very clear to our judges, you have to sign a confidentiality agreement before you can actually see an application form. So we protect everybody's application, everybody's details, and everybody's IP during this process. So a little bit more context from what the judges are looking for in the value proposition, which we've covered on previously. And again, you'll find this in the competition brochure. So you can look at that and bear this in mind when you're completing your application form. Okay, so next section, great application. Make it easy for the assessors to understand your business. So if you're a scientist and you've got a scientific idea, please try and avoid as much scientific language as possible. Don't assume the assessor reading your application form is a scientist. So try and use plain English, try and use clear language that judge can read it, understand it, and get it. There's obviously going to be times where you'll have to refer to scientific or specific references of some kind of technology. That's fine. But the general language, try and make it clear and concise for the judges to understand. Know the assessment criteria, those 6 key areas, as you're completing your application form, and keep those in mind. Make sure you outline your point of difference. Everyone's got competition, whether it be direct or indirect. What makes you different? And how can you show strong competitor analysis? Be realistic with your financial figures. So when I say realistic, don't have year 1 will be £1,000, year 2 will be £10,000, and year 3 will be 10 million. Don't do hockey stick numbers, because that's not reality. Be realistic, but be ambitious with your sales forecasting, and back them up with good assumptions as to how you've come to those numbers. Again, going back to that customer engagement, be very clear about your real customer engagement, not a paper you've downloaded, not you've read an article that says this. What real customer engagement have you carried out to validate that there is a problem that exists and there's a big enough customer segment that there's a solution to be solved here. Simplify your spend breakdown, make it high level, but make it clear. Consider your impact intentions, as we talked about. How do you intend to have good social and environmental impact in the future? Try not to leave the assessors with unanswered questions. They should know by the end of your application form and the end of your pitch video if they want to see you again. If they've got unanswered questions, then there could be a little bit of a challenge for you. Now, in the first stage assessment process, the judges will look at it on an application and a video and say, right, we want to see this back in a final or a semi-final because we have some detailed questions. But they're not fundamental questions like, what is this? What do they do? Who are the team? What is the USP? These are fundamental questions that judges should not be left unanswered. They should be very clear in your application form. If the judges want to ask questions, it's going to be based on the next follow-on. So your USP looks great. Tell me how you validated that. So that's the follow-on questions that judges will have. But don't leave the simple, basic, unanswered questions. Please double check your form before you submit it. Okay, so whether that's you want to do spelling checking or grammar checking, you're not scored down on spelling and grammar. So don't worry about that. As long as it's clear, as long as it's understandable, the judges will read that. And as long as they can get the story, then you're not scored down on anything like that. So don't worry about that at all. I have been contacted recently by a couple of applicants with neurodivergent conditions, and we're happy to support that. If there's anyone with a neurodivergent condition who struggles to complete forms, please get in touch and we can have a conversation about that, and we can make the judges aware. If you want to, that's entirely up to you. If you want the judges to be aware, then we can certainly alert the judges to that for your application itself. Okay, so if you're worried about that, get in touch. What about the pitch video itself? Here's some hints and tips. So people by people is a fundamental of this process. So when you complete your pitch video, don't submit a slide deck with a voice. The judges want to know who's behind this idea. So you could have your phone set up on a desk and record yourself on a phone for 3 minutes, talking through your business idea. Okay, you'll just do that pitch structure. You'll talk about your business for 3 minutes. You might want to add a visual to that. You might want to add some kind of addition to that, a graphic of some kind. That's okay. But they want to know who's behind this idea. They want to see the whites of your eyes in a video and connect with you, because people buy people. I've already seen a video for a submission that's been made where the applicant has simply created a very nice animation with an actor's voice explaining a business. That's not really going to cut it, because the judges don't see who's actually behind this. So they want to see you, the founder, your team. They want to know who's behind this idea. They want to see you be passionate, believable, and backable. Okay, so just be yourself. Showcase your product or service, make sure it's clear what your product or service is, and don't leave a judge asking, so what is this? If you've pitched for 3 minutes and a judge doesn't know what you do, and then they read your application and they still don't know what you do, you've failed. Make it very clear what it is you do and why you do it. Now, you might want to involve your team or possibly even your customers in the video. So you can say, this is my team, this is my CTO, this is a business advisor, or here's some testimonies from their customers. You might want to put up a graphic for a customer. That's okay, you can do that. We're not looking for Hollywood quality here in the video. You don't have to employ someone, you don't have to have a big setup, you can do it on your phone. But please make sure the sound is clear. So for example, I remember a few rounds ago, somebody recorded their video walking down the high street in Aberdeen, holding their phone at arm's length, and it was howling a gale, and didn't watch it back. And you could not hear a single word the entrepreneur was saying. So plan your video, take your time with your video, record it, watch it back. If you're happy with it, submit it. But don't submit it without watching it back. Try and be natural and engaging. So when you're recording your video, you can have auto cue, you can have notes, whatever you want to do, that's fine, because it's nerve-wracking, and we get that. You're not scored down on that. But just try and be yourself. The judges want to know who's behind this idea. They want to connect. So your form and video make up a complete submission. So there's no need to repeat everything that's in your video in your application. Okay, your video is your overview, your application is a detail. So the video gives the judges 3-minute taster of what this is, and the application's got the real detail behind the business idea. As I've said, use the unlisted option for a YouTube video, and again, there's details on this on our website and in our application brochure. And please watch your video back before you submit it to make sure the sound quality is clear, we can hear what you're saying, and you're happy with the quality of the submission. There's additional benefits for winners. I mentioned this briefly at the start. All applicants receive feedback at every stage of the competition process. Okay, so every assessor will offer feedback constructively and positively on every single application. So whether you're successful or not, everyone gets feedback during this whole process. So if you get to the finals of Scottish Edge, the main category, you'll get feedback at first stage, you'll get feedback at semi-final stage, and you'll also get feedback at final stage. Every stage of the process, you get new feedback from new assessors. Over 50% of our winners have won in their second, third, or fourth application. It's not easy to win Edge. And if you're not successful, we don't say no, we say not yet. Come back in a future round. Take this feedback, come back, strengthen your proposition. If you're a winner, you get access to a support package from key partners such as Harper McLeod for legal, Johnson Carmichael for accountancy, and James Hallam on insurance, and much more. And these partners can offer discounted rates for Edge winners. And it also gives you access to a much bigger network, and you can join the Edge alumni of over 600 businesses, and that's a huge resource to tap into. There's more support beyond the money, including access to the Scottish Edge relationship management team as well. Okay, so how do we support the businesses beyond the finances? So we're asking businesses to have an estimate on their turnover, net profit, jobs created over a 3-year application. So we're asking you to, how do you go about that? Some guidance on that, again, in the application competition brochure. Talk about your turnover, your net profit, your jobs, clear assumptions around that so the judges can see this as a believable idea. Once you've got through the first stage, if you're coming to the Scottish Edge and Social Edge category, you'll be asked for a cash flow. So we're looking for a bit more detail around assumptions of the cash position in the business, but that's only for Scottish Edge category and Social Edge category. You're not asked to provide a cash flow for Young or Wild. Okay, so don't worry about that. These are assessed by the team, and there might be a couple of questions that's prepared for the semi-final stage for the judges. Okay, so anything that's highlighted in the cash flow process will be given to the judges, and they may well ask a few questions at the semi-final stage on your cash flow, but it will only be 1 or 2 questions. And all awards are paid in 2 tranches. So if it's a Scottish Edge award of £100,000, for example, 2 tranches of 50k each. And the second tranche is paid on evidence of expenditure against the milestones agreed. Okay, so there's lots more detail to come on that in future. But if you're successful, we'll ask you to agree milestones, sign a contract, and we'll release your money in 2 tranches. If you win Young and Wild, your first tranche will be £7,500, and the remaining £2,500 will be your second tranche. And again, you'll have to provide evidence of spend. We provide the first tranche of funds up front, so we don't have a process where you have to spend it and claim it. We give you the award to spend, and then you give us the invoices. Okay, so that's slightly different from some other funders. So, time for questions. I know there's possibly a couple in the Q&A, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to go to Jack and ask Jack about any questions that came up in the chat so far, and then we can open this up for anyone who has a direct question online. So Jack, over to you.
Yeah, so we had quite a few come in. I think we got most of them in real time, so not all to carry forward. So one just came through there saying, how are franchises considered with regards to turnover and jobs created?
Okay, who had the franchise question? If you wouldn't mind just putting your hand up for me, please, just to get a little bit of clarity on that.
Is it Medin? Sorry.
Medwin, if you don't mind coming on camera, just to clarify that. So I'm making an assumption that your business idea is a franchise model of some kind. Is it early stage? Is it validated? What stage are you at, please?
So it's the right now it's pre-trading, but it's going to be a social enterprise, but it's going to be like a regional social enterprise with the aims of then franchising in the future. So you know, someone might want to open a similar thing like in their city, in their town. Obviously doing the franchising would be the main route for increasing turnover and then obviously creating jobs. How is that considered? Would the franchise, the total number of revenue of the franchises be counted towards the total, then with the jobs, or is it going to be like treated as a completely separate entity?
Okay, so your revenue stream will come from the franchise fee paid by franchisees. So let's say your franchise fee £15,000 and you open up 10 franchises, your turnover would be 150k. So that's just a very broad brush approach to it. It's not the turnover of the franchise business, it's the fees that they pay you that come into your founding business. That's your revenue model.
Okay, so I can't count that towards like, you know, the total impact. It has to be just the main central one.
Yeah, you can talk about it in total impact in terms of, you know, sales generated, but in terms of, you know, on your actual books and your cash flow and your revenue model, then your revenue model is the franchise fees, not the takings of the franchisee itself.
All right, cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. Johannes, I see we've got a hand raised there.
Hi, good morning. Hi. I put the question in the chat as well. We're a registered charity. We generate trading income through our social enterprise operations, but right now we're just a single body, so we don't have a separately constituted trading subsidiary. Is that an obstacle to applying? Do you allow charities to apply for the social edge?
Yes, absolutely. Charities can apply for social edge.
Right, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jack?
Yes, another Lisa, I think, apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong, so has asked, it was just on your bullet point, consider your impact intentions under the application section. So just looking for more information on the background in that. So I think in our brochure, we have some guidance around what to include on pages 16 and 17, if that, but I don't know if there's anything generally to add beyond what we've listed.
So just to reiterate that point around impact, we do appreciate that at a very early stage of a business, it's very difficult to talk about the impact socially and environmentally you hope to achieve. But the landscape of funding across the UK, most funders, whether that be public or private funders or investors, they will want entrepreneurs to talk about the impact they hope to have, social and environmental. So this is becoming the fabric of raising money, regardless of the stage you're at, because investors and public bodies want to know the impact that you hope to achieve. So it's your vision of the impact you hope to achieve socially and environmentally. So for example, socially, if you're hoping to create 5 sustainable jobs that minimum wage, or sorry, living wage in the future, then that can be part of your social impact. Your environmental impact may well be you're looking at sustainable processes in your supply chain, your products or services, and that's how you hope to have environmental impact. Now, again, at the early stage of a company, the judges are just looking for what fabric you're building into the foundations of your company for the future. That's all they're looking for at this stage.
Okay. I think Eleanor has her hand raised.
Hi, hello. I'm just not sure if I want to do the young age or the wild one. So maybe you can help me a bit. So I'm pre-trading and I'm also under 13. So I don't know which one is the best for me. I am a partnership, but I'm the main one. So will be me doing everything. My partner has another job, it's just a partnership, but it's me, the main one. And also, I am in the creative environment. I am a stylist and a designer. So, for example, my idea was doing the young age and then take the creative one, even though I was thinking I could also take the circular sub section.
Yeah.
Which one
So
do you
my advice, Elena, would be to come into the wildcard, because then you're competing potentially with other pre-trading businesses.
Mm.
Now, if you come into Young Edge and you're successful, you could go to a final potentially with 10 other trading businesses and you're the only pre-trading. Okay, so you could go through that route, and I'm not saying that would stop you from winning, but I would say at the stage you're at for pre-trading, I would recommend wildcard for a £10,000 award.
Okay, so wild, and then I put creative as a subgroup.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Uh,
Jack?
Yep, sorry, just a couple of people asking if you can repeat what you said at the end of the presentation about invoices.
Oh, for evidence of spend.
Yeah.
So when we release the Scottish Edge Awards, if you come in for a Scottish Edge Award, let's say you secure £100,000, we will release the first £50,000 into your business once the contract and milestones have been agreed. You may well come back in 6 months' time and say, okay, Kev, I've spent that 50k, I now need my second 50k. We'll set up a meeting and we'll ask you to provide invoices for the evidence of spend. Those will be reviewed. One of the relationship management team will meet with you to review the evidence of spend, match that evidence of spend, and then the process will start for releasing your second tranche of cash. If you're a young or a wild, it's slightly different. You will spend your first 7.5k. You'll contact myself and say, Kev, I've spent my 7.5k and I've been my next tranche. I'll ask you to send me invoices. I will do a quick verification of the invoices against agreed milestones on your contract. Provide they match up, we'll release your second £2,500 of funding. So you don't necessarily need to have a face-to-face meeting with the relationship management team for Young and Wild, but you will have to have one for the Scottish Edge category and the Social Enterprise Edge category, because it's a higher amount and it's got loan elements in it as well. I'm hoping that answers the question.
Perfect, thank you. And I think Jeremy has his hand raised.
Jeremy?
Hi, thank you. Our business is going to need more than 100,000 to get cash flow break even. We predict cash flow break even in about 2 years' time, and we're probably going to need about 300,000 to get there. Is it okay to use Edge to get us started down the road, or will you say, hey, you're going to have to get more money from somewhere else?
No, that's why Edge was created. You can use
Perfect.
the £100,000 to get you going, and in the application form, there's a section that says future funding plans.
Right.
You will show the judges in there, 100,000 will get you this milestone, but you need to raise potentially another 200,000, and here's the potential sources you will look to raise that additional 200,000.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions in the chat, Jack?
Yep, from Dell. So what's the guidance on IP ownership of patents? Is a company licensing IP eligible to apply?
Licensing IP is fine in the early stages, but we will be investing in companies with IP owned. There's a risk if you're licensing IP. So for example, if your model is to license IP over a 5-year agreed term, what happens in year 6? If your IP is withdrawn, you potentially don't have a business. So we're looking for businesses that, if you are licensing at the moment, there is an agreed point where the IP will be assigned to your business for the future. We're looking to invest in businesses that will long-term growth, new jobs, new revenue for the long term. So if you're licensing at the moment, you would have to demonstrate there is a cut-off point of raising investment or generate X amount of revenue where the IP will then be assigned. But if you're solely licensing that IP on a long-term basis, the judges will ask, well, what happens at the end of that agreement? Where does the IP go and what happens to the business? You would have to show the judges that that is not a risk.
Perfect, thank you. So Christina, can funding be used to contract CROs, chief revenue officers? for proof of concept for experiments, for example?
Yes, if you're a pre-trading
Sorry,
business,
sorry, that wasn't the CRO was meant to be contract research organization.
Sorry.
that's fine, Christina. Yes, you can. You can use the funds to bring in experts at whatever level that has to be. You're bringing in that expertise that you don't have. You can contract people in to do that research for you.
Perfect, thank you.
And just Ferry asking if you win wildcard this round, can you come back to Edge next time?
Yep. So the purpose of Young and Wild is to get a £10,000 grant, move your business forward, come back in for the Scottish Edge category in future. If you secure Scottish Edge in this category, you can only win Scottish Edge once. You can only win the Social Enterprise Edge once. But if you win a Young or a Wild, you can come back in for the Social Enterprise Edge or the Scottish Edge category in future.
Thank you. From Johannes, we are a registered charity who generate trading income through our social enterprise operations. Are we eligible to apply, or do we need to have a separately constituted trading subsidiary?
No, that's fine. I think we've already covered that. I think we had Johannes on at the start and we've answered that
Oh,
question.
did we? Sorry. My bad.
That's okay. That's okay. There's a lot of questions there.
That's right. So I forgot about that. Dominique, I may have missed some details. Is the grant paid back? I know. So the grant, there's no
No, the
payback
grant's
element of the
a grant.
grant.
You keep that. If there's a loan element, if you win Scottish Edge, you're repaying the loan, but the grant is not paid back.
Yeah.
And if you're Young or Wild, obviously the grant is not paid back. It's a government grant to the business to move you forward, and there's no return.
Perfect. Thank you. Rabia, can you make an application under more than one category?
No. Be specific. Choose your category. Submit under one category only, please.
Thank you. Emma, does wildcard, can you clarify, is wildcard only open to pre-trading businesses?
No, you can be a trading business because you could be 35 years old. So you don't qualify for Young, but you might qualify for wildcard. So it's not just pre-trading, but the majority, the reason why wildcard was set up was to help pre-trading businesses. So hopefully that gives you an answer.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that came across it. So pre-trade, so wildcard, it's not just pre-trading, so it's
No,
wildcard is a pre-trading category.
Yeah, so it's a pre-trading category, but you can be a very early stage trading business come into wildcard as well.
Yeah, and sort of discovery phase, for example, for your business. Okay, so does the amount you apply for affect your application? For example, if you apply for a smaller amount, do you stand a better chance of getting in?
No, it doesn't. The judges will take your ask as read. So if you need 10,000, the judges will base your application on 10,000. If you need 100,000, the judges will base your ask on 100,000. So it won't affect how you go through the process.
Okay, and so if you're pre-trading, is it always better to go for wildcard, or can you apply for main edge if you've got a strong business case?
If you've got a strong enough business case and you've got plenty of validation and you've got a good plan, you can apply for Scottish Edge.
Okay. So would the introduction of pre-existing technology from abroad to the UK market be considered eligible if this were to improve the traditional approaches to problems?
Yes, absolutely. Adoption of external technologies is absolutely fine. But if it's going to be a fundamental core of your business in terms of intellectual property and the growth of your business, you would have to explain how protectable this is and what would be the risk if that technology was taken from your business.
Thank you. So just a question around the loan element of the award. Is the person liable? So there's no personal guarantees. So if the business was to fail, it doesn't lie with the person to.
Yeah. So all loans in the Scottish Edge category and the Social Edge category, there's no personal guarantees. So we don't take collateral. We don't take equity. The director themselves are not held liable. The loan sits with the limited company or the charity or the KIP. So if for some reason the business fails, the loan goes down with the business entity.
Perfect, thank you. So what if you're looking to use funding to pay off other loans you've already, accumulated? Is this okay?
No, that's not permitted, I'm afraid, and you cannot use Scottish Edge Award to pay yourself or pay existing directors or pay existing employees either.
Okay, thank you. Another just the loan. When does the loan repayment start? So just also on the loans, we've got the back page of our brochure details quite in depth what the repayment terms are, what the interest is, etc. For anyone else needing information on the loans.
Yeah. and loans start 1 month after your award. So once you have drawn down your first 50k, your loan repayments will start. But again, we're flexible funders, and every case by case will be monitored and supported. So if you've got concerns over that, the relationship management team, if you secure an award and secure a loan, can have a discussion with you on that.
Yep. So we have a business that's been trading for 6 years. We've diversified in the past 18 months, and this is part of the business we want funding for. Would we still be eligible?
Not if it's the same limited company, because the same limited company would have 6 years of trading. But I'm happy for you to contact me via email, and we can have a discussion around the nature of your diversification, and we can talk about that in a little bit more detail. So if that business wants to contact me, kevin.walls@scottishedge.com, we can have a conversation about that.
Okay, and I think we have a raised hand there from Ferry. There's something about IP.
Yes, when you mentioned IP, so I'm running up an indie video game studio, and obviously we have our own IP. But as a first timer, there's a very, very high chance that if I find a publisher, the publisher will take the IP for itself. Is that a problem?
Well, if the IP is fundamental to the growth of your business and a publisher takes that, if they acquire that IP and they pay you handsomely for that, then that could be a growth strategy for your business idea. But if that publisher takes your IP and your business is left with no growth, no prospect of growth, then that's a huge risk. You would have to explain how you mitigate that and you continue growing your business idea.
Okay, thank you very much.
So yeah, just one around the conditions around paying employees and directors. So the question is, Scottish Edge awards shouldn't be used to pay employees, including founders.
So Scottish Edge should not be used to pay existing founders. Directors should not be used to pay existing loans, and should not be used to pay existing employees. However, if you have a business that if you cannot afford to pay your existing employees, you need Scottish Edge to keep well-paid jobs going, that may well be considered by the judges, because we don't want companies to lose, or early stage companies to lose well-paid jobs. So the funding may well be considered on a case-by-case basis in that aspect. But you cannot pay founders, you cannot pay existing directors, and you can't use it to pay existing debts.
Perfect. Thank you. And I think we have a question from Rajin.
Good afternoon. Sorry, it's morning. Good morning, Kevin. I mean, I hear that you cannot pay the existing director, but like my company is related to developing apps, and I'm the main developer. We need the funds to continue to further develop this app. Can we not pay ourselves for that?
No, sorry. No, you can pay contractors. So if you've got contractors who are developing, delivering services for you, you can pay external contractors, but you cannot pay yourself, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay. So we can hire third-party contractors.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Didn't realize that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that's everything, unless anyone's got anything to ask further.
So
I think that's it.
Dominique is asking, how do you put your hand up?
Oh, is it?
That's Dominique.
Sorry, I don't know how to put my hand up like everybody's doing.
That's okay. That's fine.
So where I am sort of with my business, it just came on by accident, really. I have a building, I have asset finance approval. I met with an investor to cover the capital part of it, but unfortunately they turned out to be just sharks, and they tried to dissolve my ownership and take the whole project off of me. So I'm kind of at 110,000 where I need an investment, but I'm still making a move forward. The project is due to start on the 1st of May. I mean, I have everything like financial forecasts, everything. Most of it is work to do alterations to a building, and to get other equipment in as well. Is that part of it that you can apply for the Scottish Edge as well? And contingency, could that be also part of applying for Scottish Edge, for paying bills for medications and everything else as well?
So there's a lot in that to unpick. What I can gather there is you've got a project on the go, you've got a funding gap, and you would like Scottish Edge to help fund the funding gap. That's fine. as long as you can prove a business case that as part of this funding package, you can develop a business that can generate an additional £200,000 over the next 3 years. When you mentioned contingency around, I think you said medical bills, what does that mean?
Well, it will be a veterinary practice. So it's looking to open an independent veterinary practice in the Scottish Highlands.
Yeah.
But the business model is to grow and develop in other locations where there are not other veterinary practices. So one business will be essentially funding other businesses, startups as well. So that is, it's sort of the growth to pay for medications and that to allow the business to continue to provide the service.
Okay, as long as you can show that your use of funds is a fundamental element of growth to your business, then that's fine. Jack?
Perfect. Yeah, a few raised hands. So, Rabia, was that from earlier, or is that still raised?
No, it's a new question.
Oh,
Thanks,
sorry,
Jack.
thanks.
Hi, Kevin. It was just to ask you if there's a business that was already existing but has not been successful, and I've got some ideas to tweak things, to bring some new things to the table. Would something like this be something I could use for that?
Yes, absolutely. So if the business has not had 5 years of trading history, maybe you came up with an idea, you've done some validation, it didn't happen, and you're now pivoting into something different. As long as it's not a limited company with 5 years trading history, yes, you can apply to Scottish Edge.
Okay, thank you.
And Asif? Yep.
Hi there, good morning. Just a quick one. I wanted to actually ask if you, so my business is kind of going to be involved in the digital space as a platform. And I wanted to actually ask is in terms of where the company should be based, in terms of like the kind of limited company, the main company, can it only be based in Scotland, or could it be based anywhere in the UK? Is it region specific?
So we have had cases where the limited company is actually registered in England, but the business growth and the business headquarter and the business jobs have to be based in Scotland. Scottish Edge is about creating Scottish jobs. So it may well have an entity registered in London, but that's just for Companies House purposes. The business itself has to be based in Scotland. The founder has to be based in Scotland, and any new jobs created has to be based in Scotland.
Okay, perfect. No, thank you very much for that.
Yep, so just one in from Virginia. If the funding is available to develop a tool for the business, do I focus more on the whole business or the specific tool in the application?
I'm going to try and summarize that by saying that, again, as long as you can prove that the funding is going to develop a fundamental growth lever in your business to achieve sales and create jobs, then you can use it for that purpose.
Okay, thanks. So I don't know, I think maybe, don't know if the question was perhaps around, maybe I picked up wrong, but around the application itself. Would you focus more on the business as a whole in your application, or would you really kind of drill down on the tool that's going to make the difference?
So who asked that question, Jack?
Virginia.
Virginia, are you still with us?
Yeah.
Thank you. Would you mind clarifying the question?
Yes. Okay. So I am starting, and the business model can exist without the specific digital tool that I want to create, but it will enhance this business a lot more. So when I'm applying, should I focus on what I do, the business itself, or should I focus specifically on where the money is going, saying, okay, if I get this tool, this will help the growth of the business, but where do I put because there's very few words that we have to use. So I want to be very specific on where I put my words in.
Okay, so your words will focus on the business. What is the business going to achieve? Now, you need the money to get this digital solution.
Yes.
But that's a fundamental growth lever, that's okay. But once you've got that, what does your business actually do for the next 3 years and beyond?
Yes. So the business.
So the business, we want to know about the business, and a fundamental part of that, you will explain you need this digital lever. Once you get the digital lever, your business will be able to achieve X, Y, and Z.
Thank you.
Rajan has his hand raised again.
Hi, sorry. In terms of this, you mentioned that we can pay the third-party contractors. Do they have to be based in Scotland, or they could
No.
be other parts of UK or
Yes.
international?
Yeah, so we've had situations where you have to employ developers in Romania or in India. That's absolutely okay. So your external third-party contractors can be based anywhere in the world.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so another one. So we are trading and income generating with potential growth this year, struggling to pay ourselves in the short term. Sorry, I've burst block there. Looks like I think edge funding cannot be used to help us sustain ourselves as we generate the new business income. Is there any funding available for this? I assume through Edge.
Not through Edge, unfortunately, but if you contact your local business gateway or Scottish Enterprise, or even your local authority for funding for entrepreneurs, I'm not sure of anything at the moment because the funding landscape is a little bit barren in terms of lots of funding because of Scottish Government cuts. But certainly through Scottish Edge, I'm afraid one of the key stipulations is you cannot use Scottish Edge to pay existing founders, directors, and employees. Sorry.
From Christina, what if a company is currently in Scotland, but there is a possibility that at some stage in the future the business will move to, for example, the UK? Is it possible still to apply? So I'm assuming that means if the business is planning on moving out of Scotland.
Well, if the business is planning moving out of Scotland, then you wouldn't be eligible because this is about long-term growth in Scotland. So headquartered in Scotland, new jobs in Scotland. So if you were planning to set up in Scotland for a year and then take all your jobs south or to France or wherever, you wouldn't be eligible because this is about growing jobs and revenue for the Scottish economy.
And just on the reverse of that, if it's currently based outside of Scotland but planning to move to Scotland, it would have to be based in Scotland first before they could apply, just in case that was the
You can apply with the plan of moving to Scotland if you secure an award, but you'd have to have a clear plan of when the founding director or the founder will be living in Scotland, working with the Scottish Edge team, and all new jobs, when are they going to be created, where are they going to be headquartered, how they're going to be headquartered, and what does that look like?
Would cash payments rather than bank to bank be covered?
I don't quite get the question. Is it
I
cash
think
payments?
that's from Raj. I think it's for contractors.
Can I clarify that for my app development, I would need some volunteer support, and in part, I mean, this is very similar to, let's say, drug development process, where volunteers take part in the in testing out those drugs, and those volunteers get paid. So in very similar way, my research also requires volunteers to take part in my research. So if I pay in cash to those, is that allowed?
No, well, you'd have to evidence that in some way because we'd be awarding a loan and a grant. We have to provide physical evidence of how that money's been allocated because we get audited. So you would have to provide invoices of some kind for the money that you spend. So cash payments wouldn't be covered because you would have to have some kind of evidence to show that the award has been allocated towards the agreed milestones.
So if let's say the person who walks through for this research signs a document that that person has been paid, let's say X amount of money, would that be acceptable?
Yes, that way you get paper evidence that person has received funds via Scottish Edge for your business idea. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and raised hand from Megan.
Yeah, it's kind of similar question, but a little bit different. So, like I said, mine's a social enterprise, but one of the things I want to be doing is doing like a cash prize, like an awards every year for, the target community. Am I able to use the funds for that if I show that I've got a process for allocating these?
Yes, if you can show that the prize award is a fundamental growth lever in your business and it will drive the fundamental, the growth strategy, then and as long as you can evidence the transactions, then that's okay.
Great, thanks.
I don't see anything else. If I missed anything, please raise your hand, but I think that's us.
Jack, I think we need to potentially change your slide deck, because I thought we just about covered everything, but that was a really testing Q&A session. Asif, if you've got your hand raised again.
Hi there. Just a quick one, Kevin. I wanted to ask is if part of the kind of conceptualization strategy is to try and get some kind of research done in the area of interest that the business wants to venture into. Are there ways that I could potentially, as a founder, contact kind of local universities or colleges to have collaborations? And if there's anything monetary involved in that, are you able to use an award if awarded to you towards anything of that nature?
Yes, as long as you can document again that this engagement and this contract and these payments are a fundamental growth lever of your business. So for you to grow your sales and create jobs, this is a route you have to take, and you can evidence the money's been allocated appropriately. Yes, you can.
Right, okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, so I don't know if I've got any further questions. I can't see any other further hands raised. Thank you everyone for joining. Again, you've got my email address. If there's anything fundamental you want to chat about, get in touch. Failing that, thank you very much for joining and listening to my voice for the last 90 minutes. I'm hoping it's been very useful. Remember, if you do want to get your application in, get it in. Don't tinker with it. Get it submitted when you're happy with it. And I look forward to seeing you, hopefully, at the first stage of round 23. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.